We have seen a ton of changes over just say since the last 6 or 7 years, right? With the pandemic and rates and the housing market, and rates going up high and going to be a big market correction, all these things. A lot of it never happened, but still, just the threat or living through this has been really, really crazy. And I can tell you, being in this business, watching where the market's going, watching where rates are suddenly at, what some of the new likely, economic policy that's getting laid out there, I can tell you right now, there's no other place I'd rather be.
Right here, right now, there is no other place I wanna be. Right here, right now, watching the world wake up from history.
That's right here, right now, we are at a very, very interesting time, and I'm gonna let Barry Habib say some things that I've been saying, but maybe say it in a much better way. I've got 3 children and grandkids, and one of the things I found over the years is I can tell them something, and then later on, maybe a teacher or friend or someone else tells them, and they're like, that sounds really good. And I'm like, wait, I said the same thing before. So let's hear what Barry Habib is talking about with rates, because look, so go rates, so goes the market.
Get the numbers from Case-Shiller, and the media kind of gets it, I think, a little bit wrong and a little bit out of context. And let's show you this, because we'll say, hey, look at home price appreciation. It seems to be cooling. And when you look at it year over year, there's no question about that. But of course, we know that there is a definite cause of this, and that has been the higher rates that we have seen. And inventory, of course, definitely plays a role. Local factors definitely play a role. So this is across the nation. It's different everywhere, but you have access to the local levels of appreciation in your zip code and forecasts, of course, with an MBS highway. But let's break this down a little bit more, because we could start to see and get some clues as to what's more important is how to see the future and how to advise our customers. So taking a look here, we see that year-over-year home price appreciation, as I mentioned, 1.3%. It looks modest, but you should look at this in more detail. So as we take a deeper look, this tells you the breakdown of what each month was. And notice that this 1.3% rise, it's really being anchored down by those 5 months where prices actually dropped a little bit. And so again, if you were to contemplate this here, rates during this period, they were 6 3/4, 7 1/8, and that definitely drove down the interest in purchasing. And we could see that that probably coincides exactly with why you saw some very modest or very slight home price declines. And especially when you contemplate that during a time period, and even though this is seasonally adjusted, where you might have seen some of the stronger periods, but it is seasonally adjusted. Rates start declining, and what do prices do? Prices start rising. So let's do a little math here. During this period of rising prices, what if we said, hey, what if we annualize this and say that, let's say we kept this pace here? Well, if you took the past 4 months, it's an annualized increase of 4.6%, a lot different than the 1.3. And if you just take a look at the past 3 months, where of course rates have gotten even more favorable, well, that's a 5.3% annualized rate of appreciation on real estate.
Now, Barry goes on to point out that rates, in his opinion, are likely going to be much lower as the year goes on, and that is just going to accelerate the market. Is it going to get shot out of a cannon? Probably not. But he believes, like I do, rates will be somewhere in the mid-5s by the end of the year. And look, I partner with people like Barry because they are economists and they understand the market way better than I do. But I do feel no matter what, when you look at all these factors, rates are going to be lower, barring some black swan event. I did lay out this chart of rates. You can see that 6% is kind of where we're at right now. You have to go all the way back. I mean, it touched here for 2 seconds in 2023, but to rates to be under 6%, which they are going to be 6% or less from here on out, most likely, you got to go all the way back to September of 2022. That's just to say that we are headed towards a new market. And whatever that means, that's what Barry's kind of talking about. And a lot of things get stripped out of the market because right now the market's more in favor of buyers as that continues. Now, I like to look at the health of the market because at the end of the day, we go get checkups and everything from doctors to see, are there any underlying symptoms or things that we need to be aware of that we need to look at, right? Are there people starting to get in financial trouble, foreclosure? And I can tell you sometimes it seems that way to me, especially when I talk to people, because you look at credit card debt, it is really at one of the all-time highs right now. So there are some worrisome things out there, right? So let's look at 100 major housing markets. One key question: how many homeowners are underwater? And I am going to skip to the punchline right here. Currently, 2.1% of homeowners are underwater, right? That was 1.3% back in December 2024. So that is almost a double. 23%, though, of course, they're always going to compare it to 2008 and 9 in 2009. That is a massive difference. When they go state, kind of looking at each state here, Florida, of course, not performing that well. When we look at Florida, look at Central Florida here, 3.3%. And then we're going to go to South Florida here, 10.1%. And I did not know this. Lake Haven, Winter Springs, 10.8%. And they have this graph that to me spells it out pretty interestingly. So this is each area. Look at, this is just in the last 12 months. Lakeland, Winter Haven went from 5.3 to 10.8. That's a double in 1 year. That is a lot. Cape Corals, and then it's going through different cities. Of course, we always want to look at Orlando from 1.3 to 3.3, and you can see nationally across the United States, we kind of had this 1 to 3% depreciation in the market over the last year, and really since 2002 or so. That meaning that we have seen some modest depreciation because we got rates to almost 8%. Now, did we see any foreclosures on top of this? Because there are people that are underwater. There aren't people that are in foreclosure, but there's surprisingly amount of few people that are underwater. But are there people getting in financial trouble where they start missing payments? And what they do is they track 30, 60, 90-day late. So this is the current foreclosure numbers right here. So this is kind of comparing since 2014. So look at, I showed this chart before, but 2021 we dropped to 8,860. That's just because they had a mortgage moratorium where they weren't allowing banks to foreclose. And now we're up to 58,000. So it has been steadily increasing. But statistically, we are not over any numbers that we'd be worried about. We're not even back to where we were at in 2014. And this is kind of, you can see in a graph how just huge a spike in 2009, the amount of foreclosures. Now this is people that are 90 days delinquent. This is important because this shows you what's coming down the pipeline, right? And look at 2025, super low in the big scheme of things. I mean, we're less than 1%, right, in people that are 90 days behind on their mortgage payments. And then just to kind of give all sides of the story here, this is 30 days delinquent. 3.85% is up, definitely up. Now, I will tell you that people that get 30-day behind tend to catch their mortgage up. That's why they don't track that number as much. 90 days is true financial problems, and when you look at that, you just don't see it. Now, we're going to look at this number because this is a good barometer. We know, okay, right now 30-day lates are 3.85%, and 90-day lates are out just under 1%. Let's look at that in a quarter, and we'll look at it throughout the year. Because ultimately, I care about where the market's going. And where's the market likely going? Lower rates, less of a buyer's market. I don't know if we will see enough inventory get taken out of the market this year to go back into a seller's market. My guess would be no. But you will see more competition for the better houses. And the really cool things that sellers are doing right now, paying closing costs, rate buy downs, and all those things are going to get stripped out. So we're going to pay attention to this and more. Lots of interesting things coming in the second quarter. We'll look at the next Fed meeting when that happens, and will they finally cut the Fed funds rate again? There are so many loan programs out there right now. If you don't know, there's a real estate agent. Some of the creative ways you can work with more buyers. Or if you're a buyer thinking, I don't know if my situation is financeable, reach out. I'd love to help. 22 years has given me the ability to look at all these different programs and know the right product for each buyer. Hey everyone, this is Race Robinson, your favorite Florida mortgage broker. Have a great day, great week, and I'll talk to you soon.